So there's 3 of you there today, right?
Yeah, there's 3 of us here. One of them, Silas, is just sitting in.
Just figured I'd listen to you. I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, well, feel free to, chime in if you have any questions or concerns also.
Will do, man.
Nice. All right, so you good to go there or what?
Yeah, we'll have
Silas, by the way.
Silas and then
Jeremiah.
Jeremiah.
We call him Bubba.
Bubba. You pooped again? Come on.
Jordan. Yeah. Well earned man. Well earned man.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, well on.
Come here, no.
Let's sit here and keep drinking out of my high school graduation cup. Sure. Take a nice and easy for you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Andrew, will you call her, please? Oh, man.
Kids are fun, aren't they?
Jesus. There's one word for it.
Can you hear us very well through this mic?
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to make sure I have it above us so we're talking past it.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. No problem.
Good.
So, I was going to ask you, what is your goal for your movement?
It's a little extensive. I'm not sure if you watched all the videos or not.
I think I watched a few. I seen the one on Hemp. He sent me it.
Yeah, I sent him one of them, and he watched that one.
Yeah.
So it started out as
I think it was your second video that I sent him. What was it like?
Democracy or
Or
monetary?
11 minutes long,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, I liked it. It was good.
Was that the one on the hemp revolution where I talk about the
Yeah.
just all the hemp and everything?
Yeah.
Mhm. All the things you can do with it.
Yeah, that was the 5th video.
What was that? Okay.
Yeah, and that was the pushing forward. So I was trying to give everybody something to look forward to because I know, we talked about the whole fear mongering and just all the pessimistic and negativity out there and all the hatred. It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
So really, initially, it started out as a justice reform movement, and I hadn't even considered the presidential thing at that point. So anyway, it kind of just came together as I went, and so that the Blue Cross, the positive equality. So what I recognize the blue stripe as a authoritarian symbol, and it's also extremely divisive. The fact that they've formed a brotherhood separate from the citizenry is kind of an oxymoron to what they should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're supposed to serve us.
They're securing their rights for themselves and then trying to keep the sheep below them to keep their funding and their way of life. So that's the way I'm seeing it as well. It's pretty it's like they're trying to get us to like not necessarily join in with government. It's like they don't want us to know, like that they're using the government to secure a lot of people's rights, and then the people who aren't in it, it's like, downgrading us.
Yeah, that, and there's certain parts of the country right now that are making it so that the actions of a police officer are now their actions. They can be sued for things that they can be sued personally instead of their department. They're making certain places like that where you sue the person as a person instead of suing,
And they're using the
police station.
And they're using the brotherhood to First Amendment audit cops, pretty much harass them and stuff. And it's a way to take their law enforcement role out, so that way they can roll in more of their psychological power.
I've been watching so many of those audits lately. Like I've read 4 different pages of those audits.
It's funny because a lot of those police officers and sheriff's deputies and stuff, they don't understand, like, I mean, some of them might be acting, but in my opinion, the ones that don't know what's going on, it's not their fault.
Yeah, they don't know the actual rights of the people that they're supposed to be serving.
Well, they don't know their own rights.
Yeah, they don't even know the laws they're trying to uphold half the time, because they're running off of a practice rather than the actual legal system. So they run off of that authoritarian practice where they just come up and be like, hey, let's see how bad your day is gonna get. And I'm like, what? Go fuck yourself.
Pretty much.
Exactly. So have you thought about First Amendment audits towards like the courts?
No. I just where the system stands, even legislation, the cops' authority and everything else, it's all garbage. It's been so far down the drain for so long that we really just need a reset. And, that's what a lot of the far right people they're kind of on that tip, but more against the government than the police. And their form of the reset is a hard reset, which will be a civil war. And me being in Texas, I hear about that on a, weekly, if not daily basis. And
we hear about it. We hear about it quite often up here, that it's closer to a civil war in this country than it's probably ever been in the last 5 decades.
And they're stirring it up in our state too. They're using, the people that are working for these people, they're using them to take out, in my opinion, the cops, because in my honesty, I think if something were to happen, it would be deputies, it'd be sheriff's deputies, and police officers and stuff that are on our side. Do you agree with that?
You broke up a little bit there, but they should all be on our side, So let's say they form this brotherhood, and they actually form the blue stripe, or the thin blue line, as a counter movement to Black Lives Matter, of an incident that happened in New York. But regardless, it's obviously gone nationwide, and now they have, if you watch my first video, it shows, I think it says something like some men are born equal and then others become brothers, and it shows a bunch of cops standing together. And that's exactly bullshit. We are to be brothers. Every one of us, every citizen and cop should all be on the same level. They should be the sheepdogs who help diffuse things and keep the peace. It shouldn't have anything to do with people getting assaulted or shot. If they're so scared that they can't even see somebody else with a gun without shooting them, then they need to get the hell out of that profession. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I feel like a lot of these cops too, they're scared of losing their paycheck and stuff if they actually, go with the protect a certain motto as well.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
In my opinion, I think it's going to come to a time where they're going to have to choose right and wrong.
I hope that it doesn't go to this civil war thing that everybody's pushing, because the way the right feels about it, they're dead set. They absolutely believe, and it's more of a Christian conservative based thing. As LGBTQ and all these others, and I don't have any specific feelings about any of it, except to, live and let live. If nobody's causing you any harm, do what you're going to do, stay out of my backyard with it or whatever. I'm not going to come, hating on you or treading on you, and don't come tread on me. I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys ever saw the story where there was, and I think it was, I forget which war. I think it was after Vietnam, where a bunch of vets came back. It was over in Tennessee, I believe, and they were all just, going to the bars and the honky tonks or whatever as they describe it, and the local sheriffs who had kind of monopolized the local government and were stealing the elections to, like you were saying, to ensure their paychecks or their position. And they started,
to ensure their hierarchy.
Yeah, so they started, arresting all these GIs and, putting them in jail and making meal tickets out of them. And it got really bad, actually. And it got to the point to where, the people were trying to, use the voting system to vote those guys out, but they were doing, all kinds of trickery with ballots and, bringing people from out of the county or whatever to, do false ballots and things like that. So, and then at the end, the sheriffs had actually taken the ballot boxes and went back to the police station, and there they were performing, the count on their own, to where they were just going to declare themselves, the sheriff again. And at that point, the GIs actually went to the local National Guard armory and raided that armory, and then went to the police station, and it got pretty rough. They threw some dynamite at the building and blew the front porch off the building. They blew up one of the squad cars. They created some fire, and they got the sheriff to come out and surrender. And what happened after that is what's even worse, because after the GIs got the sheriff to surrender, the local townspeople came after the sheriffs and tried to kill them. They slit one of the sheriff's throats, and another one got shot in the face, like through the mouth or something. And this was by the citizens. It wasn't by the GIs, and it wasn't by the sheriffs. But you can understand how, violated they felt, that when they saw themselves in a position to retaliate against law enforcement, that they wanted to kill them. And they murdered one of them and tried to kill the rest of them. So what we're dealing with is, it's not anything new, and it's not anything pretty. And these things have, volatile consequences. And I think that that's something that the police should consider before they, put on their outfit and decide that, they're going to go out and be the boss of whoever they see fit, because that's not how it's supposed to be.
And I noticed from doing a lot of reading and stuff like that too, is like a lot of these local governments, these county governments, are actually not operating off the Constitution. They're operating off the state and how the state is ordinating positive laws that are affecting people's lives. Yeah. And
a lot of these cities are doing that. They're going with state law instead of the constitutionally federal.
They built their
laws.
Empires. They built their empires off of fraudulent, laws, and it goes all the way down to county commissioners. County commissioners, in my opinion, are some of the most powerful elected public officials that are in this nation, because they have the power to stop what they're doing, to renegotiate laws and natural laws, and what the difference is between natural laws and positive laws, and how it takes effect on society. But like you were saying, the Brotherhood and stuff, how they're using this as a tool. It's a battle. It's hard to step into that battle zone, because the people that are in these sheriff's departments and police departments and stuff, which is, I'm sure just as well as me and Sam, that police departments are unconstitutional. City police departments. It's not supposed to be what it is today.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be, the sheriff is the sheepdog, and his deputies are there to guard the court. And so, if we could find a way to bring that to light, it would change a lot.
Yeah. I don't remember if it was you that when I was messaging you, I used the term demolition man. It could go towards a demolition man world. You ever seen that movie with Sylvester Stallone?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, we're already there. It just like
we are. We just don't.
The man answers his door with a gun, and the other cop is judge, jury, and executioner right there, and he killed that man.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's not his
the video
job.
I sent you I sent you that one, right? The one where he knocked on the door and dude stepped out, and he literally was going to lay on the ground, and as he was laying on the ground, putting his gun down, pop, pop.
And boy
Yeah.
pulled out and emptied his clip on him.
And then they both of the cops lied.
Cowards. Positive laws. It's all about control. It's all about control.
Yeah, it's all about their brotherhood and looking out for themselves and not looking out for the public. So
Yeah.
if they didn't have a warrant, they really shouldn't even have been at his door at all.
No.
Yeah.
So what was I with that? Yeah, so even with all that and how they made a meal ticket out of everybody, that's exactly where the forgive all nonviolent crime comes from. And I was like, we just need to forgive all nonviolent crime. And in addition, we need to give the ability for everybody else who has been, prosecuted for violent crimes to have an opportunity to appeal their cases, because once they've gone so far with appeals, they shut them down. They're like, that's it, you're done. You don't get any more chances. You've been convicted. That's it. And with all this DNA evidence, we have people that have been in prison since the 80s that were just now, exonerated.
Starting to let out. Yeah.
And these people have been in prison for horrible things like, murder and rape and things like that they didn't even do. And when you go to jail for something like that, they group you with those types of offenders. So then people who are not these violent animals are actually placed, in an environment with people who are. And that makes them all, extremely.
It makes them worse.
Yeah.
Like, in my opinion, I think prison a lot of times makes the small time criminal into a worse criminal instead of actually reforming them. The way, like, one of the things I notice about prison anyways, is they really don't do anything in prison other than take care of you and give you the capability of learning things. And there's no real reform. It's not like a reform for someone it's like a drug addict. You don't send them off to a NA outpost where they're camped out with a bunch of other people who are sober,
Yeah, I mean, like
get drugs.
Yeah.
Get rid of this. But the last thing you want to do is take a bunch of people that are like-minded, if it's a negative context, and put them together, because all they're going to do is educate each other on how to be bad and how to get away with
negative.
it. Yeah, if you want to reform people, you should take them out of those circumstances, out of those scenarios. But not to get too drawn out on the one topic. But so obviously,
I got all the time in the world, man. We can sit here for 2 hours if you want.
Yeah, we definitely will. But just to say that, but we got a lot to cover. But otherwise, so we absolutely understand that the policing system has run amok. They have criminalized us in every fashion possible. There's books out that are, there's a book that's called 3 Felonies a Day that, clearly demonstrates or illustrates that any American over the age of 18 commits 3 felonies a day, whether they know it or not, because there's so many laws on the books. So honestly, any day of the week, the FBI could come knock on your door and legitimately find you guilty of something. But does that mean that you're a bad person and you deserve to go to prison? No. It just means you're being made a meal ticket out of. And this is supposed to be the land of the free, not the land of the legal slave.
Yeah.
So
I agree 100%.
Pretty chopped up. So I completely despise the blue stripe, and my initial goal was to do whatever it takes and stop at nothing until every blue stripe has been removed. But then in the process of that, I was, I kind of stumbled onto, creating the Blue Cross symbol. And so I said, we not even just removing the blue stripe, we would add a stripe and make the cross. But it's not necessarily a cross. It's a plus sign.
So
positivity. And then I put the equal sign in there for positive equality, because that's what we're looking for. Because we are.
I really love that signal.
Amen. So you're thinking more of bringing back independent self-ownership of citizens. Not only that, but getting rid of the police states that have been established by those in power that are being created to push a new world order and destroy our country.
That, and he's also trying to gain mineral rights for the citizens.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it started out as that. But then, like I was telling Sam in our first podcast, was that I just kept digging and digging. I was like, none of this makes any sense, and the citizen is not at the top of the pyramid where they should be, because this is supposed to be America is supposed to be the land that has no king, but every man is his own king.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
right now
that's how it is, man. That's how it's supposed to be.
That's what it should be. So, and that'll take us right into the mineral rights thing. So the whole wealthy, taking advantage of the populace is one of the oldest things in the book. So in every other civilization in the world throughout history, it's always been the same thing. There's been a king or an emperor at the top. And the whole purpose of that is to say that, hey, this is the king's land. These are the king's resources. This is the king's road. And anybody who passes has to pay the toll. So not only that, but the people are the king's people. They're not even their own people. So they're basically cattle unto the hierarchy, or the ruler of the land. Now, what that does is it allows them to own all the riches and wealth, and be able to tax or enslave anybody at their desire. So then you have a representative of the king that can just go to anybody and say, hey, we got to charge you taxes for that or this, that, and the other, which was exactly the cause of the American Revolution. We just got tired of being taxed, and just having somebody from the royal guard come up to you and take your money is more or less a legal mafia. That's all it was.
We fought off the greatest military superpower over 200 years ago, and now we're starting to give up our freedoms that were given to us by those people who fought so that so that this country would be ours instead of Britain's. That's why they fought this war, was so that it would be a country for the people instead of a country for the king, who isn't even residing in this fucking country.
And that was the thing I was going to touch up on is I don't know if you've figured this out, but it's through the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, and the draftment of the Constitution, where they had placed, when we were asking England for our sovereignty, and the people who were, writing in our government documents, they were changing the name of our country through chain of title and entity. And so when they drafted the Articles of Confederation, the Articles of Confederation did not really have a Declaration of Independence, and the Declaration of Independence did not really have an Articles of Confederation. So there's just right there that just shows you that somebody has been in control of something for so long, and that through entity and government documents and misplacement of capital letters is where they have gotten to where we are today. And that's when we went from the Articles of Confederation and we drafted the Constitution of the United States illegally. And then they started ratifying amendments, started building bureaucratic power. And when they started building bureaucratic power, they started implementing their fraudulent courts in local counties, police departments, and cities.
Let's back up for a minute here, because I want to you're at a good point, but you're already a little far into the future, to where basically the wealthy people all over the world were beginning to come here and corrupt our system as it was growing. So I'll take a step back and say that when they were drafting the Constitution, that Thomas Jefferson, as he wrote it, one of the first drafts, he actually wrote the subjects of the land, and later changed it to the citizens. So we were one word away from just being the same old,
same
king and queen under the hierarchy thing. We were that close to just being subjects again, rather than actually being citizens. And like we're trying to say, each man is his own king, and this is not the land of a single king. So with that, like I said, all the rulers previously, they would hold the mineral rights to the country. So when we did establish our country, it wasn't anything pretty. You know, they immediately had to begin paying ransoms and to pirates and things like that, just to begin to sustain. And that's exactly where, you know, the corruption begins to take place. And if you look at Afghanistan right now, it's the same pattern happening again. There, and you know, we don't have to look at the Taliban as good guys or bad guys. Look at them as some people that are trying to establish a country, but they're under such turmoil that they're going to have to start negotiating with these higher, you know, with these ultra elite, or these ultra wealthy people of the world to gain bargaining chips, you know, in the world economy and this, that, and the other. So what's going to happen is they're going to fall right back into the same monetary slave system that every country in the world is in right now. And like I said on the last one, where, you know, Vice put out a video a couple weeks ago about how these countries, or they said America and China and Russia, are coming in and, you know, taking out all the aluminum ore, and they're getting into the national forest in Jamaica, and the sovereign people there are trying to stop them, and their government isn't helping them because their government are taking money under the table to allow it to happen. Of course, they're not going to stop it. They're getting paid off. So you see people in the comments section saying, "Oh, this is so terrible what's happening to Jamaica." And I'm like, you're a fool. This is what's happening to every country in the entire world. If you look at the people in Russia, the majority of the people in Russia don't support the government. They are trapped. They're enslaved to that. They will be killed or poisoned if they go against the grain. So we're lucky enough to be in America that we can sit here and voice our opinions without somebody coming, you know, poisoning our tea. But but there definitely needs to be a change. So right after, you know, right at the initial start of the country, and just like we call our forefathers the framers, that's all they did was they made a frame. And it's up to us to fill that frame with a solid foundation that, you know, that countless generations can grow off of. So we never established our independence. It never happened. It's all a lie. It's all a joke.
Yeah.
We fell victim to the ultra wealthy of the world in that beginning turmoil. And ever since then, they've come in and they've used money, you know, as bargaining chips to be here, and they'll be like, okay, yeah, well, we'll help you do that, but you gotta put this in there also, you know, write that beautiful law, but put this one little line in there that, you know, that just defunks it all. And that has happened the entire history of our country. And that's why the one video says, the one video is Domestic Insanity, the Cold Revolution, is because the revolution never ended. It just went cold. That's it. And as long as we're being corrupted by these, you know, by lobbyists and these corporations and these, you know, these ultra wealthy people, the revolution, the cold revolution, will continue. And the only way to stop that, or to end the cold revolution, will be to put an end to that corruption. And until then, we're nothing but sheep. We're still the subjects of the land. We are not the kings of the land. So essentially, it's like this, you know, we're still subjects. And that's why every pipe or wire that comes into your house has a meter on it. So they can charge you or tax you because you're not the king. Whereas it should be that every pipe or quarry that's coming out of the ground should have a meter on it. So that the people, the wealthy people who are taking the resources, should be the ones that are taxed up front. And actually, it has nothing to do with taxes at all. It's not about taxing the poor. It's not about taxing the wealthy. It's about the citizens not being robbed in the first place. So basically, every political argument that you hear right now, it's all bullshit. It's all a fucking horse and pony game as a distraction to keep us divided and fighting for things that don't even matter.
Well, it's over and over again, too. They do it over and over again. The news comes out every year, essentially, with some sort of new catastrophe that's ready to take out America.
Another tactic. It's another delay, but they're not really in charge of it. You know, they're just, you know, the donkey with the carrot in front of them, because our government.
The left's ready to fight the right, and the right's ready to fight the left at all costs.
Yeah.
And no matter what, like, thing I don't understand is why can't, like my favorite thing in this world is forgiveness and letting go of things that are, I don't have any I have personal truths in my life, but nothing when it comes to something that I've never experienced. I have no personal truth on it. There's nothing, I don't have my own personal truth. I go by what's based on the truth of what somebody else tells me.
Yeah, just there's a code, and step back. This is a little bit off topic, but
That's fine.
Andrew, call your sister, please. From some people that they're not necessarily religious people, they're more spiritual, and they believe there's basically a process of conducting yourself in life or in the universe, in existence. And that process, as they defined it, was thought, intention, and action. But I had actually before I even heard that, I had already devised my own form of it. And what it was observe, understand, navigate. Don't look to control anything. Don't look to make it what you want it. Observe it for what it is, understand it for what it is, and navigate.
Exactly.
Don't try to control it. Don't try to hurt it. You do you, and let the environment do it itself. It's a society is an ecosystem. It's not any different from anything else in nature, and it'll sort itself out if you don't do all this crazy stuff. And look at all the crazy stuff we're doing, and look at what's happening to nature.
Yeah.
We're trying to force the world to fit into our system instead of just fitting into the system that existed before we existed.
Yeah. We're just the smartest monkeys. We're just the smartest monkeys on the world at the moment.
And that was why
they call us the smartest monkeys on the world.
when
smartest animals, man.
When I started studying natural law and I started studying positive law, I started realizing the split between, like you were saying, those spiritual people and the people who want to create government, and these environmentalists and these scientists who act like they know what's going on and this and that. And it's all, I've noticed they've built an agenda to convince people that they're for, the natural order. Yeah, natural order, whatever, and trying to prevent climate change, this and that. And I've noticed that in all reality, like you were saying, like if we were to just, deregulate and bring back, natural things and focus on, instead of trying to build off of it, focus on why it's here and why we have those things and why we have natural laws, why DNA and, people are connected to the universe and all that. Like you're saying, I'm on board with that.
Here's the deal with that, and I don't know if y'all watch a lot of. I know you watch the Joe Rogan podcast and stuff, and I'm sure you're familiar with Graham Hancock and those guys.
Oh yeah.
So here's the deal.
I love his work.
What we're talking about, it did exist, and that's why I hate when I'm in a conversation with somebody and I start talking about this other type, like a resource-based economy rather than a tax economy, and they're like, "You show me one place in history where that ever happened," and blah blah. I was like, nobody can show you where it happened in history because the histories were erased. The libraries were burnt. The civilizations and cultures were completely wiped off the face of the earth. And it was all done, specifically to create these hierarchies so that they could, steal the wealth of the world and enslave humanity. And
like for the Sphinx, for example, was buried just to be hidden from whatever, at two different points in time. They say that the Great Sphinx was buried. As you mentioned, Graham Hancock, he talks about that a lot. He said it looks like it's been buried at least twice, all the way over, so that people couldn't find it.
And then originally it had a dog face, and they changed it to the whenever it had come out from under the sand. I guess the last time the ruling Egyptian king or whatever at that time, or one of his nephews or something, they had their face put on it, rather than the dog face that was on there. So that's exactly right. The histories have been fudged, and as far as that goes, when it's been done the whole way down the line, and we will talk about the sciences and where, scientists talk about this and that, just like the doctors, right now, and it's still on the books. And even though people are aware of it right now, they still haven't changed it. It says in the medical books, it says that Black people have a thicker skin and they do not require as much anesthesia as white people. And that's just bullshit, man. So all of the science research and everything has been catered to that hierarchy because they're the ones who have controlled the funding for it. And that's why you see when a scientist stumbles on something, he's like, hey, we could do this and change the world. And he gets defunded immediately. All his peers will shun him, and he falls into that dogmatic rule, and he gets shut down. You see these people lose their jobs. They lose their livelihoods because they tried to bring something that was real and true to the table, and it didn't fit under the corporate model, the hierarchy.
Yeah.
So
one of the things I don't understand about that is or even the racial problems we have in our world, and not just our own country, but the racial problems we have. I don't understand how somebody can look at someone else and literally judge them based off of the difference of melanin in the skin of a person that they're standing across from.
Mm-hmm.
That goes way back in history, and it's something that I don't really want to talk about because it kind of stretches out the imagination, and it's just going to, everything that we're talking about already is going to be hard for people to deal with because they're not going to want to accept that they have been living in the system and working hard to vote and do this, that, and the other, and they believe wholeheartedly in their effort, and they're married to it. So when you tell them that it's all bullshit, they're just like, no, there's no way my entire life's effort is, it's just bullshit. Like we're close to making a breakthrough. We can do this. Like, no, you're never going to do it. And every day I'll get on Twitter and I see people arguing about these things and this injustice, or somebody did this, or this is like that. And I'm like, listen, we will never, ever see true justice while we were operating in a corrupted system. And I don't know why people can't get that through their heads, but it's absolutely fact. We will not see any true justice. Everything will be fudged, will be smudged. We'll all be sitting here, hey, this is like this and that, and why they do this? It doesn't make any damn sense, and it doesn't. Just like right now, the whole Afghanistan thing, we were over there for the longest time.
20 years.
And those missions weren't being run by strict militant people like Jocko.
Yeah.
If Jocko was the 5-star general over all that, and he was making all the calls, we wouldn't have stories like from Dakota Meyer, where they went into a valley and were ambushed, where their leaders, they saw the civilians coming out of there. They were taking all their animals, all their possessions. They came out of there. They knew that it was going to be bad, and they pushed them down there anyway, and they didn't have the support that they needed and all these other things, and those guys were slaughtered. They were fucking slaughtered. And Myers was lucky that he made it out of there himself, because the one guy tried to shoot him, and his gun misfired, and he was able to get a rock and smash his head in and get out of there.
Smash his head in,
Yeah. So, and people want to hear stories like that, but they don't want to connect the dots and be like, it's just a mishap. No, it's bullshit, man. We are completely compromised from head to toe. The entire country is a tool to the ultra wealthy in the world. And until we realize that, and we stop this, trying to run our land as if it's there's a king and we aren't all kings. That's how we're getting run over. That's how the cops are getting meal tickets out of us. That's how the corporations steal all the resources. And what do we get? We get fees, we get fines, we get late fees, we get criminalized. It's all bullshit. And that's why I'm just like, we need to scrub all of this. If we don't do a reset, then we're just going to keep doing the same shit over and over again. I was talking to a lady earlier, and she watched one of my videos, and she was like, I got to the point to where you said you're running for president. And I was like, and that's what threw you off, right? And she was like, best of luck. Good luck. And that's what they say, because they think I'm insane. And I got a few things to say about that. One, my campaign for presidency, it might be a joke to most people, but I promise you it's not any more of a joke than our government is anyway. So
Amen.
fuck them.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Also, I'm over 35. I'm a citizen. I can run for president if I want to. It's only a joke if the people don't back me up. And I also tell them that if I don't give a damn about the presidency, as I clearly say in one of the videos, I say I don't look at this as an opportunity to be a president. I look at it as an opportunity to serve all citizens with equal respect. That's what I look at it as. It has nothing to do with me occupying the highest seat in the land and having people, idolize me. I don't give a damn about that. I want to fix these problems and let's move on. So yeah,
I'm fully for it. Like you said, a reset is going to be the only way because, like I was saying earlier, I don't mean to get out of context and everything, but
no, you're good.
It's the positive laws that the state has created and their system of government, and where they tried to get 3%ers and right-wing groups to support the blue line so they can continue their agenda without having a single shot fired. Because if they can get patriots to go in with the blue line and support the blue line, and they've brainwashed the people for generations, societies, that these people are here to help us, that these people are here to they're meals. All they're doing is they're picking up money for the people in power. Like you were saying, they're picking up money for these people in power, and they're ruining people's lives because of it. And so, yeah, I agree with that.
It's just all atrocity. It's absolutely, by the very definition, is tyranny. It is tyranny. Yep. And there's really, except for, any honest prosecution of a violent crime, and that means that there's, rock solid evidence, that they found somebody guilty on. Anything other than that, there's nothing that can be done in a court of law in America that could be considered less than tyranny because of the way our legal system has developed. So so they can just shut the shit down. And every judge and every prosecutor, every district attorney in every state and every county, they're all a party to this atrocity. None of them are doing what they're supposed to do. They are all in violation of their own oath.
You bringing up
so true.
Jocko Willink, I love that, because Jocko Willink and David Goggins are like my two favorite guys. Like if they could run for any kind of office, I think they would be very good in that line of work, just because of their military background and the fact that they're both very capable and very diligent people. And they both have the discipline to do it.
Hey guys,
You want another pot of coffee?
Sure. And so basically, it's kind of like when we spread that message and we stand up to that tyranny, as citizens in a nation under God, if we believe it, we're able to stand up to something that's going to disarm.
They didn't add the under God thing to the Pledge of Allegiance until like the 1870s or something. Yeah. And that was a manipulation of it, because we're supposed to have freedom of religion, so we can't really say under God.
Under God. Be under Allah.
I mean,
it was a political agenda.
Some people don't believe in God at all, and they have every right to do that if that's what they want. I happen to believe in God. I don't consider myself a religious person. I don't consider myself a follower of, I don't want to say it, I'm not a follower of Jesus. I was raised on Christian, on Christian principles, and I still hold myself to that because I believe it to be a good moral compass, and that's what I respect about it. But all these other things, like, from the beginning of my life, I was negatively affected by this Christian conservatism, because both sets of my grandparents from my parents, did not approve of my parents' marriage or union. So both sides of my family disowned my parents before I was even born. And they never had anything to do with me or my siblings because of that. So our entire family was broken before it started because of Christian conservatism.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Does that sound like what Jesus would want?
no, and that's what I was, and that's exactly, like, I have a friend that sent me a Satum.org exhibit catalog, and it's crazy because you're right. And I'm going to come out and say this. I haven't said this out in public. I mean, I've made posts about it, but
Do it.
the conservative agenda is, it's the agenda that we have been talking about. And when people say, oh, Democrats are doing this and that or whatever, how I have seen it is when Oregon had decriminalized drugs and stuff, and like Kate Brown has been, she's stepped some boundaries, obviously, and the whole thing's fraud, like we were talking about. But I see the left as a side that's pointing out, like, look what you guys are doing. You guys have built an empire on fraud, of positive laws to control people, to tell people they're not of age to do this, to tell people that they can't do this and that, because it's all about religion and controlling it, off of, it's a political agenda, and they make money off of illegal drugs. They make money off of.
It's still the church. It's still the Catholic Church from the beginning, and the people running those ploys just because it works well to keep people under control and keep them,
that's
in a belief system that.
Yeah, that's kind of why Freemasons still run off of Christianity too. That's their basis.
And that's the thing is, like, Freemasonry is like, 'cause I've studied it and stuff. Like, I don't have anything against Freemasons. I've actually thought, there's good ones and there's bad ones.
Yeah, a lot of the founders of our country.
There's a little globe, and it shows on each religion, on each faith as Masonry, and it's like people are saying, oh, George Washington's a Mason, this and that. And the reason why I say this nation's under God is because George Washington and the founding fathers took a step more towards liberty in the universe and God through natural laws than any other government we see today.
Yep.
Absolutely. Those were the histories that were erased. And if I'm not mistaken, the Freemasons were founded to try to basically, they infiltrated the church that had become corrupted so that they could carry through that lineage and keep, building these structures and things in that fashion. And there was a point in time where they noticed that, they kept building all the churches in these fashions, and they started recognizing these symbols as satanic or whatever, and then they demonized the Freemasons. And at which point, not only that, they were infiltrated just like our government has been. So people started joining the group and getting in deep, and then they manipulated that group also. So now they've been corrupted, and they aren't what they were or what they were originally supposed to be. So it's the same pattern over and over again. You get the people to infiltrate it and corrupt it. That's all it is. Yep. So everything is corrupted. The whole world is. And that's
98.9% is under a central bank.
Yeah, and they're all slaves under that bank. It's a monetary slave system. A promissory note is a slave's hall pass. That is all it is. It doesn't even matter. We don't even need that shit. Yeah. That's why I put one tweet out there. I was just like, hey, somebody tell Elon Musk to give me $1 billion. I'll go out in the desert and build a rainforest city with a resource-based economy that's completely self-sustainable, and just prove to the world that the whole monetary system is a joke, and they're enslaved. It doesn't.
I really like your ideas,
dude. Yes, that is so.
It's such a good
self-sustainable, and it's like they're trying to keep all of this self-sustainable knowledge away from us because they want to be able to sustain us through them.
When I was in college back around 2011, 2012, I was going for a degree in physics and chemistry. Or excuse me, no, it was a dual degree program for engineering and then for physics, and then after that I was going to go for a doctorate in chemistry. But either way, that's beside the point. But I was studying a lot of stuff back then, and one of the things that I stumbled upon was molten molten metal batteries. So basically liquid metal batteries. And these things are amazing. You could take a plastic 50-gallon drum and just pour in these 3 ingredients. And the main one is this molten aluminum. And, they settle through, naturally from their different densities. And you just connect an electrode to the bottom and one to the top, and bam, you got a battery.
They're similar to the ones that they used to use in ancient Egypt, in the clay pottery. They'd build them in clay pots.
So,
have you ever seen those in museums? They're pretty cool.
I have seen those. So they kind of rediscovered it in the 60s because the process that it takes to make the aluminum, and when they heat it up and or whatever, I don't want to misquote the process, but
I think it only has to get like 1,000 degrees.
Just aluminum. Making the aluminum, they have to use an electrolysis process or whatever, and it essentially is a battery while they're making it. So one of my ideas back in 2011, 10 years ago, was that we could make these batteries, and it could be about the size of the air conditioner unit that sits outside your house, and just put one outside the house. We could start on one side of the country and start putting these molten aluminum batteries on every house. And then if they have solar panels, it's going to charge those things up. They could do a little geothermal thing. You could do geothermal, some wind and some solar, and it'll keep that battery charged. And people could power their homes independently. Now we could set that up in one area of the country, and our power lines are made out of aluminum because it's highly conductive. So basically, we set that area up with the molten batteries, and then we start disassembling the grid and start recycling that grid material into more batteries, and you just sweep across the nation and get rid of the grid completely. Now think about how many billions of dollars a year we would save just by not sending out linemen to repair power lines during storms.
Yeah.
That right there would be enough money to feed every starving person in the country. But it's fucking bullshit that people are still going hungry and we're still out there fixing power lines. It's all bullshit.
Always.
Now they said that technology kind of fell to the side, in the 60s because of some other shit. It fell to the side because it's going to ruin the electric companies, profits. How is ERCOT in Texas going to give their CEOs $300 million golden parachutes if everybody has their own sustainable battery on the side of their house? And not only would the people have to charge the battery themselves, it wouldn't even have to be like that. So they have these things in use for like remote buildings out in the desert and things like that. So they put several of these batteries on a 5-story building out in the middle of the desert, and that's how it'll power these buildings. So you could it could be out closer to the street, kind of like your water meter is. And, a truck could come up and pick up your old battery and, with a little crane and put a new full charge battery on the thing. And we would still at least be without power lines and not have to worry about losing power every time the wind blows too hard, Yeah. I mean, I could go on for weeks and days about how absolute bullshit everything is.
Yeah. The same reason that they don't want to do that, it's kind of like the same argument for why a lot of people don't want to switch over to hemp. But, it's kind of the same reason, because that people are worried, you're going to be taken away from the wood industry, the lumber industry. Well, we still need the lumber industry no matter what, because there's deforestation and reforestation. In order to keep the forest healthy, you do have to log certain parts of them off anyways, so that we can.
Might be a part of propaganda. I don't want to shoot you in the foot on that, but you know what? Let's talk about another piece of propaganda.
Well, no, it does help with. I'm a volunteer firefighter, and that's proven to help prevent fires throughout the year.
Just remember that all the science is skewed in favor of the ultra wealthy because they funded research. So everything that people say right now is at least half a lie, if not completely.
I'm not saying that they need to log as much as they do, but it's still, my hunting area every few years they go through and have to log a few certain areas of it off. Because no matter what, it's always 110 degrees there. If it gets caught on fire near that town, that town is just gone.
And
we do control burns over here in
I
the
can tell you
national
this.
forest.
Yeah,
I was
we
a
do
logger.
too.
I was a logger for 2 years, and the reason why I believe firmly in logging is because it's harvesting the land. We're always going to need loggers.
We're always going to need wood anyways,
Yeah,
even if we do have an alternative.
And you're right. Like, we could self-sustain ourselves. We don't have to rely on loggers pumping lumber to the mill, because it's all controlled. But the thing I've noticed about logging is clear cuts. They divide a forest fire.
Yep.
And when we log too, it also picks up the forest floor. It also picks up all the junk. And if we just leave forests up and going and we just let them grow and stuff, it's going to be a nasty forest. So when the forest fire does come, it spreads across farther than what we want.
You have your own fire line essentially that the loggers set up.
Exactly.
And that's the thing that's
and it's replanting, and it's having the correct amount of logging companies, obviously.
Well, yeah, and that also makes it so people can harvest seeds and then sell seeds so that people can grow their own trees.
And another thing, as a logger, I was for 2 years and stuff. I learned all this stuff. And for every tree we cut down, we planted 5 trees for every tree we cut down. And that's the thing, is like, we're talking about energy, sustainable, batteries, stuff like that.
Yeah, plant the 5 trees because they don't know if pine beetles are going to take them out, or if the tree is even going to grow to maturity or not. So
for every
it's like
5
somebody
of trees
puts
they
3
plant,
seeds in a hole and try to grow a vegetable. They put 3 seeds down because they know, probably, at best, maybe only one of them is actually going to make it. But like one of the largest forest fires over in California this year was started from electrical equipment, like these power lines making a spark and catching it on fire. So once again, if we took that shit down and we had these molten batteries there, then we wouldn't have those problems so much. So there's a halfway point for all of it, but
there's a way to mitigate all of it in some way.
Yeah.
And I like where you're coming from with that, because like Elon Musk and all these powerful people and stuff, they
shooting shit into space.
Yeah, well,
like that's what we're gonna do right now.
They say we're supposed to run out of fossil fuels, which is true. I mean, we can run out of fossil fuels, and I feel like that's why these people have used the American government to spread out across the globe to get control of land resources for those reasons. And the thing is, what I've noticed is if we do run out of fossil fuels, it's
hemp makes biodiesel.
Yeah, hemp like natural resources and stuff that we could use to keep this country sovereign, to keep these things going. And a lot of people, they're like, oh, well, if this climate change, this and that, they're yelling like we shouldn't be doing CO2. Every time we pump CO2 in our atmosphere, I don't know if you know this, but what it does is it actually creates oxygen. It creates more oxygen. And so it's this false ideology I've noticed that, with static models, and I can't remember the other name, but they've tried these models on climate change. And one of the skews they did is they put one of the models above a bus garage. And then they took the statistics from that model and put it out there for the whole world to see, instead of trying to use a model and testing out CO2 and how it reacts with trees and plants.
Yeah.
But why they did that? Because they understand that plants and trees and stuff, when it reacts with CO2 and stuff, it creates oxygen. And so that's what I've gotten out of it. But like you said, transferring over to sustainable energy resources in our own independence and learning how to do that in our own independence comes down to, teaching the right things we need to teach in our schools, separating our schools from the government education that's putting propaganda in their heads, about this stuff.
So
growing hemp could also help reforest certain areas.
And I'm a big guy on hemp. I'm a big guy on cannabis because, out of the Bible, there's so much truth that, in the Bible, but there's also a lot of missing books in the Bible and a lot of mistranslated words about Jesus and this and that. Like what Jesus used as a healing ointment, he used cannabis as a healing ointment. And the meaning of Christ today has been taken way out of proportion. Some people don't believe in Christ, some people don't, like you said, but in my belief, it's been taken way out of proportion from the deep research I've read, and that Jesus used herbs to freaking to heal people. He used natural resources to heal people.
And that was why they thought he was performing miracles.
That's why they thought
because he was just a badass.
Recently, they had, scientists had deduced that hemp had originated in the in Tibet, or in these Tibetan mountain areas, and supposedly that's where Jesus was for his first 40 years. He went over there, and he wasn't. That's why you don't hear much about Jesus until he's 40.
Yeah.
But either way, I don't want to.
You hear him talk about him when he's a baby, and then you hear him talk about him when he's a grown up.
Yeah,
he had to go study.
I don't want to throw people off too far on that. Like I said, we're just to stay focused on the headway that needs to be made right now. But still, circling back to what we're talking about, even with all the carbon and everything else, it's still a natural cycle of the planet Earth. So eventually it would do it to itself anyway, and then it goes back into an ice age and kind of recycles again. So another part of this, or that's come out of the maturity of this movement, is building those livable fallout zones, or not even fallout zones. They're just they're
an area that would sustain us through like an ice age,
things like that. Absolutely. So if we know it's going to happen, why aren't we moving in a direction to sustain ourselves and our technology and our way of life beyond that? Because that's absolutely what we should be doing. And we shouldn't be sitting around but like, hey, one day it's going to end and that's going to be it. Yay. No, get the hell out of here.
That's very
prepare for it. Let's push ourselves beyond it. Let's not repeat history. Let's be the age of people that are able to overcome those cycles, to be wise enough to live beyond that.
Well, yeah, there's already places that they can make it rain when they want it to rain.
Yeah, cloud seeding. We do it a lot.
Cloud. Yeah, that's. I seen an article on that, or read an article on that. I think it was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I showed you.
All I know is
Silas showed it to me.
All I know is I watch InfoWars, and Alex Jones is the closest one to the truth than anybody.
I know he's right about 75% of the time.
These fifth dimensional aliens, he says, that are teamed up with our government and how they're controlling the weather and this.
That's what scares me, is that he is right about 70% of the crap that he says he's right. But then those things that you think are scary off the wall are just like, that can't be true.
Yeah. And it's like everything he said is done. Say what?
So we will not confirm or deny any of this.
No,
really. But really, we have an agenda, and
yes,
and it's clear. It's a clear-cut plan. It's something that everybody should be able to get behind. If not, just the simple portions of it: the economic boom, the raw material boom to create the economic boom. It would, get rid of the housing crisis. And all these other problems, the environmental crisis. We could just solve all of that with the hemp revolution. So once again, that should be something that everybody just signs off on. But people still want to demonize hemp, and it's really just mind-boggling that we're legalizing marijuana everywhere, but we're still not going, full forward with the hemp.
Yeah, just state legalization for marijuana, but we don't have a federal law that we can grow hemp and produce anything from clothing to paper. It's mind-boggling.
It's beyond that. I mean, you can make detergent.
You can make so much from hemp.
You can make food, flowers, fuel, anything you can think of. You can pretty much make it out of hemp. And let me push forward a little more, because beginning this 3D printing thing with the hemp could, just has unlimited possibilities also. So one of the other things,
like you were talking in our previous podcast about the fuel tanks for rocket ships.
Let me say, I'm misquoted on that. The fuel tanks aren't quite as large as I was quoting. And in my defense,